Welcome to the Path Forward with Cassandra Williamson. It is May, what is this day? The 7th of 2025. It is Wednesday. And on your screen, you are looking at a picture of hungry kids standing in front of the White House. This is an AI generated image, just so you know, okay? But the point is this, is that all of America's kids who are in public school systems or receive any kind of food assistance or meal programs, they're under threat from the Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress. They want to roll back the SNAP program, take all kinds of funding from that. They want to take money from food bank programs and everything like that. And it will jeopardize our kids. Now, obviously, if we raise enough of a stink about this, those kids will get the food that they deserve. All right. But right now, what this administration and the Republicans in Congress are trying to do is push it all back on the state. Many of these states can't take care of anything they've got, and their education system already sucks. All right. So let me see. I can't see you and you can't see me. Now you can. There we go. I had the lens covered up, a lens protector. All right. So our kids are the most important thing we have in this country. And this administration, the Trump administration, has made a big deal out of protecting kids, from that dangerous gender ideology stuff and all of the stuff that's LGBTQ plus IA alphabet. They've gone after doing all of that. But it's never been about that. It's never been about that. The whole point is how much money can they put in their pockets at the highest levels for billionaires and millionaires. That's what it amounts to. That's what all this stuff will ultimately do. When they cut out all these programs and roll it over to either the private sector or back to the states, guess who wins? Those who already have plenty. That's who's going to take the most out of this, folks. Your kids will go hungry as a result of what's going on right now in Congress. And I know that sometime earlier today, Mike Johnson said, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said something about they were going to kind of slow down that thing with the SNAP stuff. But it's not just SNAP. It's Medicaid. It's food programs all across the country. They're trying to stop them and cancel like $1 billion worth of money going into some of these food programs for schools and local food shelters and stuff like that, food providers. For the farmers can provide food for all of the kids and things in the communities. Well, they deserve to be paid for that kind of food. They don't need to just dump the food out there and say, hey, we're going to give it for free. No, they need to get something in return. But what's happening is that if you roll all that stuff back to the states, you cut out $1 billion. It's going to affect America's kids, period. And what's the one thing that kind of ensures thriving, ensures success in school, success in life? Well, not having to focus on the need for food, folks. That's the part about it. That's what is so aggravating about what Trump administration is doing and the Republicans in Congress. They're going to cut and slash and burn, and they're going to move fast and break things. Well, that's what they're doing. They're doing it all across the board and all kinds of different things. Nothing new there. Yeah, there's some things that might need to be carefully reviewed and reconsidered. Absolutely should be. That should be something that takes place every 2 or 3 years, at least. Review the programs in place to make sure they're effective and doing the job they were designed to do. Right? Yes. That's exactly what this is all about. But they're not doing that. They're moving fast and breaking things. That's been their modus operandi from the beginning. And it's not really about any particular group of people either. It's about opening up more revenues, more revenue streams for the wealthy. When Trump started talking about the kids, they only need 3 or 4 dolls, and 30 might be too many. He said that from the White House in the Oval Office. What has he done to the Oval Office? He's turned it into the golden throne. That's what he's done. It's gold everywhere. It looks just like his places over in Manhattan. Okay. And that brings up the point of the golden toilets too. He's asking kids and families to not give their kids the $30 or whatever they've got, or give them things like that. Well, he's got a few golden toilets. that he could sell off. He doesn't need that many of those, right? Does he? Really? Honestly? How about a yacht or two? The billionaire class. Come on. How many homes do these people have scattered around the country from California to Florida and to Manhattan or other places? How many homes do they really need, right? I mean, nobody needs 2 or 3 homes. No. And many Americans are sitting here suffering simply because this administration and the Republicans, under the leadership, the forced pressure of Project 2025 and Kevin Roberts over there at the Heritage Foundation, Dr. Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation, get it right. But that's where all this is coming from. It's being pushed from that. And they have had this wet dream, basically, of going after all of these programs across the whole of the federal government, trying to push them back to the states. But it's not stopping there. They're trying to privatize the post office, privatize other types of care systems, doing all these things that will cut down and shut down the large administrative part of the executive branch. And what do they want to do, though? How are they going to do it? Well, obviously, they're going to go back to Project 2025 and they're going to read something like, I don't know, maybe we can implement Schedule F that Trump tried to do at the end of his first administration. Yeah, you know what Schedule F is, right? That's the one that actually says, 50,000 of our federal employees in the executive branch of the government, we're going to reclassify them as at-will employees. In other words, they can be fired at will and hired at will, replaced at will. Now, what do you hear over on the right when they talk about doing that with the federal employees? We want to get the best of the best in there. We want meritocracy to be the cool thing, to go jumping in through all these hoops to get the best of the best and not look at anything else except meritocracy. How good are you at your job? And that's a valid kind of thing. There's no big deal with that. But that's not the way it's going to work. When you put 50,000 federal employees, and there's going to be more than that, but they're going to shift this Schedule F remake whenever it happens here real soon. They're going to shift it so that all of those people become at-will employees. They can get rid of them if they don't toe the line and pledge allegiance to Donald Trump. If they don't do those things the way they want them done, well, they get rid of them. Who they put in place? I don't know, Uncle Joe Bob's third, fourth cousin. What does that sound like? That sounds like something from the spoils period. I don't know, when Andrew Jackson started all of this, it wasn't meritocracy. It was, I'm going to give it to my cousin over yonder, or my good friend. I've known this person a long time. We'll give them a chance to do that. We just need to have something for them to do for the next few years, okay? So we'll put them on the federal dole. That's not meritocracy. That is not meritocracy, folks. That's the worst kind of government management we could ever possibly have in a government the size of ours. And from Andrew Jackson until about the mid-1880s, when they finally started trying to do something about it, when they started to turn the executive branch, the administrative part of the executive branch, into career people who were learning as they moved up in rank and in position in the government and stuff like that. Don't you want people to know what they're doing? But yes, now there are problems with some of that too. But it's not to go back to that period of time when you just put in your cousin in a place like that and say that they can run it because, well, I trust them. That is not meritocracy. And I don't know what Matt Walsh and Rufo over there, Christopher Rufo, and all these people are talking about all the time. And over in the Heritage Foundation, they talk about meritocracy left and right, but there's not a single person they put in place who actually is qualified to be there. Oh, wait a minute. Who are we looking at? Pete Hegseth. Pete doesn't deserve to be there. He seemed to have one major goal. One, do all he can and commute all he can on Signal, the Signal chat thing, and tell everybody about everything and make sure he looks good when he does it. And, oh, by the way, we're going to ban all the transgender soldiers and airmen and guardsmen and everybody because, we got a thing about those transgender people. They're, no matter how qualified they are and how long they've been serving and all this kind of stuff and what their training is and the stuff that they are working on and the knowledge that they have and experience that they have, the people they're leading and their qualifications and the awards they've received. None of that stuff matters to Pete. He only is concerned about the fact that you challenged his, if you're a trans woman, you challenged his masculinity. I mean, masculinity ought to be, sacrosanct, right? Inviolable, right? So that's what happens right there. But you got all these people who do not know who have no idea about strategic thinking, haven't been trained in it. They don't even care about it. They only see one thing they want to do and they go out and do it. And Hegseth is turning the world upside down. Now, look, I did read one thing today that he's doing that I actually thought was a pretty decent idea, which is put the military more focused on special operations. But there's a caveat to it. He's going to qualify special operations as combat units, which if the women don't qualify to be in there, don't meet the standards of the men, well, they won't be there. But that's neither here nor there in that sense. It's just that he really wants to get rid of the women in the military. He wants to remove them from positions of power and authority because in his belief system, women have no right to lead men. It's the other way around. I know a bunch of women right now working through the Naval Academy, a bunch of graduates and others who are joining up with another veteran group and planning on marching sometime in the next month or two, something. I'll have to get the exact information on that. But they're planning on doing this. And there's a lot of them. Okay. They're going to put the women's group with all the veterans in the big march down on the what do you call it? The green there in Washington. I've been there 100 times. I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, so that's what this administration is all about. It's not about doing anything that's good or right or meritocracy focused or anything like that. It's give the job to your friends and see if they can hold up under pressure and go ahead and give them that. And maybe they'll do the right thing as long as they follow exactly what Trump says down to the letter. I'm telling you, no good will come out of all this stuff that the Trump administration and Mike Johnson and the Republicans are doing right now. No good will come from it. None. Kids will go hungry when food programs and the food banks in the local areas are defunded, which is like $1 billion. I think that was the number that was used today. You defund those things, the food banks and the school lunch programs and stuff like that, and you pass it back to the states to take care of it. As I said before, these states, many of them, a lot of them, red states, don't know how to manage one from moving a bean from one row to the other in whatever field they're in. It's crazy. It's craziness. But you start to look at it in the holistic way and you see, let's see, you got kids who are being told that you can't have 30 dolls because, you should only need about 3 or 4. And especially in times like this, right? Right. Because, I've got to have my other golden toilet. I've got to buy another yacht or another house. I want to buy another house up there in the Chicago area so I can look out over the lakes. Right. Basically, all this stuff is going to do is pass money from your pocket and the state's pockets into the billionaire millionaire class again. Same stuff that happened in the 1880s and 1890s in this country in the early 1900s. That golden era, the Gilded Age, when all the robber barons were gobbling up all the money. This is that on steroids, folks. This is the same stuff that took place then that ended up burning down the city of Chicago in the Chicago fire. This is the stuff that it'll take decades to get us out of. Yeah, there's some good things going on. I do appreciate the fact that we're trying to level the playing field with our tariffs and stuff like that around the world. I understand that. I understand that leveling them, that these people, these other countries have been screwing us over. I get that. I can appreciate that. I see it. I know it. We see it. Everybody does, right? So, yeah, when you level that playing field, well, then things will work better for us too. But the other stuff, not so much. Those tariffs are the things that's going to cause that child to have to take $2 or $3 or $4 at Christmas than any other thing or whatever holiday, at Hanukkah or whatever. That's the stuff that we have to stand up against, folks. This administration and the Republicans today are absolutely cruel. And cruelty is the point. They're going after the kids and their welfare and their thriving and their ability to get good food, at least one would hope, good food. And, destroying the education system simply because, they think it's a liberal organization. It's been too liberal for too long. They went after Harvard and told them, McMahon told them, we're not going to send you another dime. And then somebody from Harvard sent it back with all the corrections. The red ink said, this is the wrong way to say that. This shouldn't have been put that way. This, left out something there. There are a lot of, grammatical errors and syntax errors, and they just sent it back and corrected it for them. I thought that was hilarious. But they're not stopping with that. They're going after Washington, the University of Washington, right now. They're going after all of them. And the idea is they want to control these institutions and turn them into another version of the new College of Florida. They want that much authority and control where they can do that. Ron DeSantis did it. He put in people like Rufo on the board of directors. He put them in there and turned that thing, a once shining liberal arts school, into something you don't even hear about anymore. It's a conservative black hole or brown hole, depending on how close it is to Mar-a-Lago. Oh my God. So anyway, that's what they want to do. They want to do this. They have been saying for decades that liberal ideology is taking over all the colleges and universities in the country. Well, that's not what actually has happened. The people who were pursuing that education and stuff, they began to see things. They understand things. They saw it, and they started moving in certain directions, and they ended up with where they are today, where many of them aren't conservative. But the problem is, and the thing that does need to be corrected, is that you don't need these educational institutions favoring one side or the other. You don't need to do that. That is wrong, flat out wrong. You don't need to do that. However, a little bit of education changes a lot of things. Unless, of course, you go to, I don't know, the new college, in which case I'm not sure I'd hire you. But that's where we are today, folks. We're talking about Trump not needing an extra golden toilet, even though he wants to get the money to be able to do that by taking away the dollars from the kids and the food lunches from the kids and the lunch money and the food bank program money. And then he wants to go after, maybe privatizing the VA. There was a poll done today about the VA. The Mission Roll Call organization did a poll, and this is what they found. And I'm reading this from the Center Square by Brett Rowland, okay? Published sometime earlier today, 3 hours or so earlier today. And it's entitled Poll, Veterans Concerned About Proposed VA Cuts. Jeez. If only they had read Project 2025. It's there. If only they had listened for the past 2 or 3 years of me talking about this and others talking about this and warning people of this. What'd you do? Nothing. You dismissed me. You said, don't say it that way. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to say it that way. I'm going to be blunt and obvious about it. I'm going to tell you when you're doing wrong and something is absolutely crazy. Or if you're doing harm to this country, I'll call you out. If you're doing harm to a community of people, a demographic of Americans, I'll call you out. And if you're in that demographic causing problems and doing things that distract from a bigger picture thinking kind of thing, I'm calling you out too. And with that, let's call it a day. And I hope you signed up for the Zoom meeting tonight at 7:30 Eastern time. Have a good one. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.